Hi, I'm Daniel Bwala. This video, make sure to share it till it reaches 220 million Nigerians. I want to speak to you today about the audacity of hypocrisy and the hypocrisy of competence. Since my resignation from APC, I have heard from, listened to, and read about the rich resources of Nigerians whose interventions have contributed to the debate on diversity, equity, shared prosperity, and inclusiveness. Of all the interventions that at least I've come across, what I find curious is the narration or notion that religion is not relevant in politics, that the poor man on the street does not care about religion, that he just wants food on his table. And the funniest of it all is the notion that choice and selection of vice presidential flag bearer of APC was purely made on the basis of competence as against religious consideration. This is what I call the audacity of hypocrisy and the hypocrisy of competence. For avoidance of doubt, hypocrisy is defined as the practice of claiming to have higher standards or more noble beliefs than is the case. In other words, the practice of saying we should ignore religious injustice and disregard to diversity and simply focus on issue-based campaign, as if equity, diversity, justice are not issues that affect the electorate and form the basis for their choices and decisions. Everywhere in the world, wherever religion disfavors the minority, it has always been an issue that formed the talking point for campaign and solicitation. The hallmark of religious consideration or conversation is not only to portray inclusiveness, but to ensure the protection of rights. Today, in both the United Kingdom and the United States, the concept of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism are core issues that affect Muslims in largely dominated Christian communities and Jews in communities of neo-Nazi. Therefore, it has become a campaign issue. When the various political parties began preparation for primary elections, there were several meetings by different sections, blocks, and zones of the country, debating around zoning formula and the need to entrench diversity and opportunity, as in the selection of various posts. Now, a good example was when politicians from the North were insisting on participating in the presidential primaries on the account of competence and opportunity. Some of the Southern politicians dismiss it and insist on zoning for equity and fairness. The same politicians who insist on zoning have supernaturally turned 360 degrees and are now saying demand for religious zoning is a non-issue and unnecessary distraction. For example, again, APC, when the national chairman once said the party is likely to field a northern candidate, the now competence advocates were then the equity and fairness advocate. They insisted and even threatened the stability of the country if the issue was not zoned. But now that the minority northern Christians are affected, they said that the issue of zoning is no longer relevant, that competence is what matters. Audacity of hypocrisy and hypocrisy of competence. Please share this video. Audacity of hypocrisy and hypocrisy of competence. Make sure to share it till it reaches over 200 million Nigerians. The part 1 and this 2 are all going to be part of the article that will be published in Washington Post, in some newspapers in Nigeria, and hopefully Daily Telegraph here in London. Hypocrisy of competence is the most asinine argument I've ever heard, hiding behind the competence to perpetuate an agenda as if competence cannot be found in every tribe, ethnic group, religious background, brandishing competence with no criteria or still standards for decision making. Oftentimes, the outcome shows the very opposite of competence. It has now become a common cliché in our political protest and participation. When someone wants to perpetuate fraud and injustice, he hides under the guise of competence, as if the principles of federal character has been expunged from our constitution. When the flag bearer of APC stated that the rationale behind his choice of a running mate was competence, I laughed in Chinese. Because even on the evidence of competence or choice of a Muslim candidate, Governor El-Rufai is by far a more competent and experienced candidate than the chosen candidate. If you stretch the argument further, you then factor northeastern Christians such as Boss Mustafa, who is a serving secretary to the government of the Federation with full knowledge and rich experience of the workings of the government of the Federation. Honorable Dogara, former Speaker of the House of Representatives, former number 4 in the hierarchy of government of the Federation, with rich contact and association across Nigeria and the knowledge of parliamentary affairs as regards the government of the Federation. All these people were dismissed with a wave of hand as incompetent or less competent than the chosen one. The irony is that whilst the flag bearer diverts attention to competence, the real issue is religion. Because suddenly those who support his choices could not hide the reality and had to be all over the media advocating that a Muslim northerner is required to secure the votes of the northern Muslim. That's the issue, religion, which competence advocates were quick to dismiss. The brazen injustice will run deep in the spines of the northern minority Christians, and again scratch the wounds of trust. Since the times of Sadona of Sokoto, the late Amadou Bello, who instituted the modernization philosophy of equity and shared prosperity, till date, and in all strata of our national life, the minority northern Christians have not only identified with the rest of the North in struggles, but have sacrificed a lot in this endeavor. Now, after more than 60 years, they cannot be trusted to be given a fair share of opportunity in governance. In other words, they are not Northerners because of their religious identity. And you tell me APC is not playing identity politics. The outcry sought for a fair and equitable leadership that will address it. Unfortunately, Asiwaju has demonstrated that an Asiwaju government will not only accept and endorse injustice, but he will reinforce it under the guise of competence. Nigerians should wake up. It is time for us to do what is right.